Welcome to the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast. If you're responsible for keeping your business profitable into the future, you need to be a learning organization. So here at the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast, we talk about managing organizational knowledge to keep your business strong. I'm your co-host, Nathan Eckel, and we're here with Peggy Salvatore. How you doing, Peggy?
I'm doing fine. How you doing, Nathan?
Man, it's there are all kinds of crazy stuff going on these days, and I'm just so happy that we can record another podcast episode, Peggy.
I am too, because we have trees falling and wires coming down, and we're just having a crazy day here on the East Coast. Huh?
We're making the best of it. So today we're going to be talking about something that's even worse than trees falling down and erosion and losing power. It's worse than losing friends over political positions on Facebook and social media. What could I possibly be talking about, Peggy?
What could you possibly be talking about, Nathan?
Shelfware.
Shelfware, of course. Shelfware.
Shelfware is worse than all of those other things, at least if you're a corporation or if you're leading a corporation. And the reason why is because shelfware is probably more expensive than friendship, if you measure it in a money way. I can't really defend that statement. I'm just having
You really can't defend that statement.
I can't really
but
defend it.
I'll let you just twist slowly in the wind after
well,
that.
Hey, in my defense, I think a few of us, it's funny how an opinion or a poorly worded response can take a priceless friendship and at least in the social universe, make it not hold up and be as valuable as we once thought. So for better or worse, we're going over to shelfware because there's a real fixed cost or an ongoing cost with that. And Peggy, you saw fit to call foul on shelfware and to give it a name. I don't know if that's actually your name or not, but you're raising Cain about this shelfware problem. Could you tell us a little bit more, and then we'll dig into the meat of this episode? What's shelfware, and why'd you put it in your book?
Okay, well, I don't know that shelfware is necessarily my term. I think I've seen it elsewhere, although I can't identify it. So I'll accept credit for it until someone else steps forward. How's that? Shelfware, it's when companies, corporations specifically, develop really expensive, beautiful training programs and spend millions of dollars, and they never use the training programs. But beautiful programs are built, many hundreds of man and woman hours are put into the work, and some boss somewhere developed the program, gets credit for it, checks the box, and somebody pats them on the back. I have seen shelfware cost millions of dollars. And there are two sad things about that. One is it's a waste of money because it doesn't get used. And the second sad thing is there's a lot of valuable information sitting in that shelfware that no one ever learns because the stuff doesn't get rolled out. And it doesn't get rolled out for any number of reasons, which I guess we can talk about. I'm not even sure what all those reasons are sometimes.
Well, give us just one. I mean, how do we get shelfware off the shelf and where people can actually use it?
Well, I think part of what happens with shelfware, as I said, is somebody thinks a program needs to be built. There's some needs assessment that points to the fact that training might be a solution. So something gets written, and then the cost of implementing it, rolling it out, taking people off the line, or taking people out of their offices for a day, or sending them to training for 3 days. But it turns out that the ultimate cost of putting little buns in the seats is very costly. And so at some point they turn off the spigot. So they spend the money to build it, but then sometimes what I've seen in one case at least is not really wanting to part with the money to use it. So that's one reason why. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a real recurring theme, if you haven't noticed already here on the podcast. Those of you that are listening and driving and taking a walk and jogging and walking your dog or wherever you're at right now eating lunch, there's a recurring theme here, and it's about being reactionary versus proactive. And so here at the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast, we're very much in favor of being proactive instead of retroactive, because you can't, depending on how far out of the tube the toothpaste is, it can be pretty hard to kind of suck that toothpaste back in unless you have like a time machine or something.
Or something, yeah. I like the whole sci-fi approach to getting the toothpaste back in the tube. I don't know if it's not possible, is it? Has anyone ever done that?
Time machine.
Time machine, okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, when I have been able to do that, but the toothpaste isn't actually physically all that far out of the tube. I mean, it might just be poking out, and I can kind of manipulate the toothpaste tube just a little bit to kind of suck it back in, but. I'm a little bit more fastidious than that than most people in that regard. But
it could be fun, Nathan. You could do a YouTube video on how to get toothpaste back in the tube, and we can post it alongside this video about shelfware, so that we can do like a little training, like a little add-on bonus.
Now that would be shelfware.
That would be shelfware.
Now, if we want to talk
people develop training that nobody needs.
That would be shelfware, because the amount of toothpaste that I can suck back into the tube is really, really small.
Minuscule. Yeah.
It's really small. So, I mean, I think it would be. I think this is a good opportunity. I mean, now that we got shelfware out of the bag. And I mean, there's not that much of a repair job you can do with shelfware. I think if we just rewound and zoomed out of the situation, just for the benefit of anybody, maybe they're in a new situation, maybe they're inheriting like that CEO that had the 3 envelopes in your book, working or finding your subject matter experts that you talked about. There are some people listening to this because they're right in the middle of a bad situation, and there may not be an easy fix. However, maybe what we can do is just kind of explain how to transition into a more proactive mindset. And I'm going to just throw this in, just instructional design 101. This is what we learned in school. This is what we did. There are all kinds of different models, but the fundamental one is called ADDIE, and it's kind of like your buddy Eddie, except it starts with an A. And that A is analysis. It stands for analysis, so that before you design and deliver and implement and evaluate, that's the rest of the ADDIE, you have to first do a needs analysis. And that's the part that they hammer into our head the most in a master's program or a certification program. And ironically, when you get into the rigors of the real world and the culture of the real world, that's the part that many of us end up doing the least. Many of us aren't even in a position where we're even able to do real instructional design work, and that's not really my argument right now. But the reason I'm bringing this out right now is that there are people listening right now, Peggy, to us, who are in a position where they can analyze, but they don't even necessarily know this model. Nobody's necessarily ever really fleshed it out for them. So. What are your thoughts about all of that? How can we use this model and use proactive thinking to try to avoid this the next time, or at least turn the culture ship around so that this doesn't happen again to this degree?
Well, you really tie it all together beautifully by bringing up the ADDIE model and emphasizing analysis, because you're right. It's frequently the step that's that's completely skipped or isn't done thoroughly enough to really do a to correctly assess what you've got to do to implement effectively. What I mean by that is, what does this have to do with shelfware? Well, it has everything to do with shelfware, because part of your needs analysis needs to be, what do you already have lying around that you can use or reuse or repurpose in some way. It doesn't make any sense to spend a lot of money on training that you ignore. You can often really leverage money you've already spent and avoid reinventing the wheel. So whenever you've been asked to develop training, I always look around to see, what have you already got? What do you already know? What can we build on, repurpose, and where can we save you money? So that really needs to be part of that needs analysis.
Absolutely. So, this has been the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast. We have just pretty much ran out of time at this point. We talked about shelfware and how expensive it is and how you got to avoid it. You got to at least, if you're in a governance position, maybe you can't avoid whatever situation you might be in. Maybe you can't fix it all with a time machine. But what you can do is start building a proactive culture that avoids the root causes of shelfware. So any final word over to you, Peggy?
I think you've absolutely nailed it. Shelfware, if you've got it, figure out if there's any place you can grab it off the shelf and just manage to salvage pieces of it. And the best way to avoid it is to do a thorough analysis and make sure you're creating training that you need, that you could use, and that you can afford to use in the future.
All right, you heard it, folks. So stay safe out there. Keep lean, keep proactive, and we'll see you on the next episode here at the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast. Join us next time because we're going to talk about one size doesn't fit all and being able to customize learning solutions so that you can actually fix the problem in the right way. We'll see you then. This has been the Working with Subject Matter Experts podcast.